Thanks everyone for joining our webinar today. We're going to talk about how leading marketers use measurement to increase sales and also efficiency in the marketing budget. But first, to get started, I wanted to introduce you a little bit to Full Circle. Full Circle is a software company that has a set of applications that are built on the Salesforce platform. And what we do is we help marketing people accurately track and measure the impact of their marketing campaigns on pipeline and revenue. The offerings include measuring marketing attribution, so also digital marketing attribution. We do integrated campaign analysis. We help with revenue operations. And we also support different styles of marketing, including account-based marketing. It's a comprehensive and complete solution that, again, lives on the Salesforce platform. And we decided to build the products that way because we felt that that if all the data was put into Salesforce, then both sales and marketing could see the same data and it would be easier for them to work together. The companies that we help with often spend an enormous amount of money on marketing and sales. Sometimes over half of the revenue is spent on marketing and sales. And so any changes that they can make to become more efficient in their marketing and sales operation can have an enormously positive impact on the operations of the companies. So get started, in the bad old days, what we used to do is we used to measure the performance of marketing based on the number of leads that marketing was generating for sales. And so I wanted to start off with this very simple example, which is, here's a list that comes straight out of Salesforce. And you can see here that the B2B Fusion party list generated 2,523 leads. Further down the list, you can see that this demo request generated 210,000 leads. So if you were looking at this list some time ago, you would say, oh, well, we should do more parties because that generates a lot more leads. However, today, what we do is we don't look at lead count as much. We look at, we look at the impact of the campaigns on sales. And so you can see here that demo request is not at, in the middle of the pack, it is at the top, and it's the most important campaign to run. So what this tells a marketing person is, and it drives the marketing person to think about how they can drive more demo requests, because that is the most important most important campaign for that company. The way that we help our customers is that we developed a full circle methodology. So we call it the full circle method, and it has 4 pieces that our customers follow. Our best customers do this, and actually all marketers do have a planning process. So there's a dashboard that's set up to help with this planning process. And so it reviews what happened in the past, so a marketer can try to project how many leads they would need to generate to drive future sales. In the planning process, of course, marketers will develop goals. And so there's a dashboard that's set up for achieving. And that is the dashboard that you measure your progress against the goals that you've set. The third piece of this is we call optimizing. It's a dashboard for optimizing your sales and marketing processes. And in particular, there's a heavy emphasis on the marketing to sales handoff. So that's where, of course, marketing is handing off leads to sales and what happens during that transition. So you can see which processes are performing well, which are not, and then you can make changes in how you're working with sales to optimize performance. The last dashboard is the evaluating dashboard, and this is an important dashboard because what it does is it tells a marketer which campaigns are actually impacting sales, pipeline and sales the most. And so using this dashboard, you can optimize your marketing mix, and you can invest more money into programs that are having high impact on sales and less money into programs that are having very little impact on sales. So that's the full circle method: planning, achieving, optimizing, and evaluating. So customers that follow this methodology oftentimes get about a 30% lift in their marketing budget. And the reason is, of course, that a lot of times when we're flying blind, we invest in marketing programs that simply don't have that much impact on sales. You might actually see a large number of leads, as we had in that example with the party list, but the actual impact on sales is very low. And so it's very common for us to see customers that get about a 30% bump in the efficiency of their marketing spend. So these kinds of companies, they do this virtuous circle. It's a cycle of activities. The first thing that they'll do is they'll align sales and marketing on a company objective, particularly a sales objective. The second thing that they do is adopt funnel metrics and attribution. Then the third thing they do is hold regular meetings between sales ops and marketing ops. That might be a weekly meeting or a bi-weekly meeting, and then maybe once a month they update the executives in the company about what their findings are and what changes that they're making. So in these regular meetings, they'll identify areas of improvement, then they will make adjustments to their sales and marketing operations, and then start all over again. This process works really well, and our best customers follow it. One of our best customers is a company called Hired. This is a tech jobs marketplace, and it's based in San Francisco, California. And you see here, this is Katrina Wong. She's the VP of Marketing. And when she joined Hired, the company had a B2C, largely a B2C model, and she had to build out a B2B marketing playbook when she joined the company. And specifically, she needed to attribute sales or attribute revenue to very specific marketing programs, the different channels that they were investing in, and also campaigns so they could allocate their marketing budget in the most effective way. So she needed a system that could easily track leads and then generate the reports that would be used by both marketing and the revenue team so that they can optimize their performance and work better together. So they had some really good results. Their field marketing team generated a 6-fold ROI. They also had a clever campaign they won an important award for. And then finally, they were able to show really bulletproof data that marketing had a very important role in the business of the company, and that in fact that marketing contributed more than half of the closed-won business. So here's what Katrina said: with Full Circle, my marketing playbook is complete because I can prove my strategy is effective. So let's talk about funnel metrics and attribution. These are the two key marketing metrics that we feel are most important for measuring marketing. And so just going back to that example that we talked about in the past, here's this demo request, which is low down the list when measuring leads and high on the list when measuring against using an attribution model. And so I want to first start talking about attribution because it gives good visibility into what's really working in your company. So here's an example of attribution. Here's a company that's generated $18 million in sales, and when you're talking attribution, what you want to do is you want to take this $18 million and then have a logical way of dividing it up and assigning it to various campaigns or campaign types that are running. So here's our 6 campaign types that might be typical of a B2B company: running ads, doing emails, maybe banner ads, running seminars, webinars, and then there's an other category. And so you can see that in this particular case, an email looks like it's the most effective channel for the company because it's generating the most in sales, or is associated with most in sales. So there's different types of attribution. As we talked about in the bad old days, we counted leads, but with revenue attribution, there's lots of different ways to actually set it up. And the reason that you want to pick one of these models based on your marketing strategy, and we can talk about that in a little bit. So types of models include a single touch, a multi-touch, a custom weighted, and custom factors model. So as everyone knows, in the B2B context, for a particular sales, there can often be 5 to 10 marketing touches during that sale. And so what you want to do is you want to understand what the impact is of each of those touches. So in certain models, you might emphasize one touch over another. So in a single touch model, you would attribute that all of that $18 million for whatever the first touch is. Or you might have a last touch model, which is the last touch before the sale or before that particular deal turns into an opportunity for sales. Or you might have the tipping point touch, which is the touch that forces the marketing to hand over the lead to sales. So in a single touch model, you're allocating all of the revenue or all of the sales to one particular touch. And obviously, if you do that allocation, it creates some interesting results, but we know that because there's 5 to 10 touches on average in many cases for a B2B sale, you would want to try to include all of the touches. And so then you move to a multi-touch type model. In a multi-touch model, you can have lots of different ways to weight the touches. So here we have an example of an even spread model where the $18 million would be allocated among all of these 6 touches. Then you might have a custom weighted model. And in a custom weighted model, you might emphasize timing or campaign type. So you might have put a higher weight on earlier touches, or you might have put higher weight on later touches, depending on what your marketing strategy is. Or you might have a higher weight on a particular type of campaign. In a custom factors type model, you might put a weight on how long a person might or a prospect might spend on a particular type of campaign. So for example, if they're reading an article, you might give that a lower weight because it takes less time or less time spent. But if they spend an hour on a webinar, you might weight it higher. So these are the different types of models, and there's no right answer for all companies. Each company would want to select a model that works for their marketing strategy. Next, I want to talk about funnel metrics. So funnel metrics are important because they tell you a lot about how your marketing and sales operations are working. And there's 3 key metrics. There's volume, velocity, and conversion rate. The volume is the count of leads of how many leads are going through the funnel at different stages. The velocity is how fast the leads are progressing through the funnel, and the conversion rate shows the actual percentage conversion from stage to stage. So here's an example of volume metrics. And in here we have a chart. This comes straight out of Salesforce, and you have a listing of campaign types, which would be typical campaigns for a B2B type company. So you would, so here's a campaign type: conferences, then we have banner ads, and then we have email, then we have inbound activity, we have webinars and web activity. And on this horizontal axis here, these labels are stages in the funnel. So the first stage here is inquiry or target. Then we have a marketing qualified lead. That's what MQL is, or qualified target. Then SAL is sales accepted lead. SQL is sales qualified lead. And then SQL1 would be a deal that's won. And these are standard funnel stages that was first developed by a company called Serious Decisions back over 10 years ago, and have become basically the standard in how in the standard stages in B2B marketing. So you can see here, these are volume metrics, and these are lead counts in various stages. So you can see 858 for the conference is in inquiry target. MQL for marketing qualified leads 151, 68 for SAL, and 42 for sales qualified lead, and 31 deals have won. Then you can look at the total contract value of each of these various campaign types, and you can see that conferences are the most important campaign type for this particular example. Let's move on. So we talked about volume. Let's talk about conversion rates. Conversion rates measure the percentage conversion from stage to stage. And so you can see here we have the same campaign types, but you also have across the top axis here, these labels are the percentage of conversion from stage to stage. So the percentage of inquiry to MQL, or the percentage of MQL to SAL, and so on. Then you can also measure the overall conversion rate from inquiry to one. And you can see here that's listed in this green column here. The average conversion rate is 4.8%, as you can see from overall inquiry to one. But you can see that the inbound leads here in this particular example of 7.5% are the highest, which would mean that those particular campaigns are the most effective from a conversion rate standpoint. Then velocity. Velocity is really an important metric because it allows you to measure how fast the leads are actually moving through the funnel. And so think about it, if you have say your average velocity is 30 days, if you can cut that to 15 days and literally close deals twice as fast, you get twice the amount of revenue in that time frame than you would otherwise. So velocity can have a very big effect on the results of marketing campaigns. So looking to see which campaigns seem to drive the fastest velocity can be a very important metric. So here we have these same campaign types, and then you can see velocity, which is measured in days. So this would be a marketing qualified lead to sales accepted lead. It's MQR to SAR, which is marketing qualified response to sales accepted response in this particular category. There's sales accepted response to sales qualified, and then sales qualified to close one. And you can see for conferences, the average from MQR to SAR is 22 days. The average from SAR to SQR is 2 days, and the average from SQR to close one is 8 days. So the total average is 32 days. The best campaigns, it looks like, so smaller, when it comes to velocity, smaller is better. The average velocity for webinars is 17 days, which is almost half that of conferences. So those, despite in the previous chart where we saw conferences was generating more volume and sales, the webinars seem to close deals at twice the rate. So emphasizing webinars might be the right strategy. Here's an example of a customer of ours, Jobvite, and they needed to actually raise money. They're a small company, Silicon Valley-based company. They needed to raise a Series C. And in order to do that, they needed to raise meet certain revenue goals. And so the CEO of Jobvite enlisted both the sales and marketing teams to work together on this. So the first thing that the marketing people did was to align their teams and then do a system evaluation to try to organize their data to get a single source of truth. They used Full Circle, and it's our ability to store the data in Salesforce as a good way of doing that. And then they did what we call a reverse funnel to set goals. So they used the planning dashboard to actually generate information so they could set marketing goals for themselves. They then went through and identified the best and most effective programs so that they could optimize their marketing spend. And then they did a lot of checks on the marketing to sales handoff to see if they could improve the efficiency there, and they were able to do that. They were running Full Circle plus Marketo and Salesforce, and so what happened was not only did they meet their goals, but they basically doubled their efficiency. They increased their inquiry to win rate by 100%. They actually secured the funding, and then the two guys that were actually leading the initiative got promoted. So that was a really successful customer for us. So I want to talk about, we talked about attribution, and we talked about funnel metrics. And some companies start with attribution, some companies start with funnel metrics, and some companies do both. There's been a lot of emphasis on attribution in the market over the last few years, but our feeling is that attribution alone is not enough. And the reason is that attribution metrics report on marketing's contribution to revenue, but they do it at a point in time. So generally, you looking at attribution on a daily basis typically doesn't really help you that much. You want to look at it on a periodic basis, and so you might look at it monthly, quarterly, or for special meetings. Funnel metrics, on the other hand, while attribution is good at helping you prioritize your marketing budget, funnel metrics really help you create a lot of efficiency because they really report on the quality of the lead management process and how well that's working. So the volume, velocity, conversion rates, all of those metrics really help when you study them to try to understand what's working and what's not working. And you can use those more readily in weekly meetings for optimization. Both metrics work hand in hand. They're different and very complementary. But most important thing that we emphasize with our customers, the meeting cadence. Having regular meetings to look at the metrics, discuss them, and then doing the optimization works really, really well. So I want to give a couple of examples here on how to actually use these metrics. So there's 3 of them. Which campaign type is driving the most sales? So this is a question. So that one might ask. One might ask, which campaign type is driving the most sales? What programs drive the highest conversion? And then, can I measure PR? This has always been a question for me, being at this marketing game for a little while. So in this particular example, these are the question that we're asking is which campaigns drive the most sales. So I'm going to highlight this segment in each one because of the way Salesforce puts these charts together. It's actually can be different colors, so I wanted to make sure that we pointed out the right ones. And we're going to look at our digital ads. So if you recall, there's several types of attribution models that you can use. The first one we talked about was an even spread. So that's when you take the sale and you divide it evenly among all of the campaigns that contributed to it. There's a first touch model. So this would be looking at what was the very first touch that was involved in a successful sale. And then there's a time decay model, which looks at time that would decay, basically would reduce the weight based on when the touch came in. So if it was earlier in the sales cycle, it would have a high weight, and if it's lower or later, it would have a lower weight. So here we have 3 different models, and you can see here that there's a smaller slice here for digital marketing in the even spread model, but a much larger slice in the first touch model, and again a smaller slice in the time decay model. So what this would tell you is that digital marketing is working better earlier in the sales cycle. And obviously, from the biggest, if this biggest slice here is green, which is events, and so in this particular case, from an even spread model standpoint, events are driving the most sales. Okay, second question: what programs drive the highest conversion rate? So here we have a set of campaign types, and you can see here we've got an overall inquiry to 1%. And when you look at this overall inquiry to 1%, it looks like the best campaign type is email. Here's another last question: is can I measure PR? And I wanted to talk a little bit about this because this was always a question that I had: is can we show a way to measure the impact of PR? And so here we have a chart which shows inbound requests on a website, and you can also show the number of mentions on a daily basis. we've mapped that against these inbound requests. And one of the things that we looked at was to look at days that are affected by PR and days that are not affected by PR. And you can see here that we did a count of days unaffected by PR and a count of days affected by PR. And what you could see is that the number of inbound requests significantly increase on the days affected by PR. And so that could potentially be attributed to press relations activities. So in summary, I wanted to talk a little bit about our findings over the years of helping companies optimize their sales and marketing funnels and optimize their marketing mix. So the first thing is, in order to get sales and marketing working together, the best thing to do is to put all of the data in one place. And we like Salesforce because salespeople are typically already using Salesforce and as their CRM system, and so adding the marketing information there makes a lot of sense. So with sales and marketing seeing the same data, they can be much more efficient in how they work together. We also it also enhances the visibility into bottlenecks. So because sales and marketing are seeing the same information, they can address issues that come up from time to time. Putting the information in Salesforce also allows for a very efficient channel for feedback to marketing. What campaigns are being effective, what are not being effective. And so what we found over time with sales and marketing working together, this better alignment generates better revenue success. So in summary, we've talked about funnel metrics and attribution. Attribution helps you prioritize your marketing mix and make investments in the right places. Funnel metrics are key to operations. They help you optimize your processes, particularly the marketing to sales handoff. And then putting all your information inside Salesforce creates a single source of truth so that marketing and sales can work better together. So that ends my presentation. I wanted to thank Ingo for joining me on this webinar, and I will turn this over and see if we have any questions.
Great, thank you, Bonnie.
Katie,
and Ingo.
Katie, do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. So the first question is, which attribution model should I choose?
So that's a really good question, and it really should be aligning to your marketing strategy. So for example, if you are a new company and you're just trying to create a pipeline and and build a funnel, you might want to emphasize campaigns that actually are first touch type campaigns, or campaigns that happen earlier in the sales cycle. So either a first touch model or a decay model might work very well for you. So the first thing to do is really understand what is your marketing strategy and where are you trying to generate leads maybe in the funnel, and then use that to help drive what your attribution model is.
Okay, awesome. All right, and feel free to type your questions in the Q&A chat box and we can get to those. Looks like we have another question. Why is Salesforce a good place to store your sales and marketing data?
I'll go ahead and take that one. So I probably emphasized that quite a bit in my presentation, but Salesforce is a great place to store data because the salespeople are already using Salesforce really as their system of record for the results of sales. And so adding the marketing data and enriching the marketing data inside Salesforce is a great way to get sales and marketing looking at the same information. We found that to be very, very effective.
Great. All right, and another question, how long would a project take and what are the first steps to get started?
Ingo, do you want to take that one?
I take the one from the beginning. So if you're in the situation that you're dealing with these questions we have raised here, or looking into raising efficiency in your organization, we would you would contact us at Bust Consulting. We would take a look at your situation in terms of your campaign processes, of your data structures, and have a sort of assessment of the ability to go quicker or less quicker into a project. So there might be some preconditions we have to work on before we can go into a technical implementation of full circle insights. But also we could figure out that you're already far away on your track, and then we will bring Bonnie's team into play and have a detailed look in your installation infrastructure, and then go in detailing the the implementation of the apps and the customizing parts which are needed to achieve the goals. So part of the assessment is, of course, what are my, as I explained in the beginning, doing a look into what are my marketing targets, my sales targets, what are the current data sets which I'm dealing with, and discover the gap which we need to close with full circle insights. And once we are in a project, and would then together with full circle insights have an assessment on the technical part via usually a webinar, because the guys are sitting in California, then we'll move on with more details in the solution from the full circle insight technology. So Bonnie, you might explain the rest, how you do the final setting for the implementation.
Yeah, so there's if you look at funnel metrics and attribution applications are pretty easy to install, and it literally could take a couple hours, and they work right away, right on top of your Salesforce data. Funnel metrics type projects can take a little longer, because we want to try to make sure that the way that each company is managing their lead management process is modeled correctly and accurately inside Salesforce. And so the process for doing that can take a little bit longer. So typically on a funnel metrics type project, we've deployed as fast as 10 days, but sometimes it can take a couple of months, because companies may be also in a discovery process for actually how they're doing their lead management process. So really depends on the company, but we can do it as short as 10 days.
Yeah, usually it's just the more of the details we discover right up front the project, the quicker we are in the implementation later on.
Great.
Next question.
So we don't have any other questions. So unless someone wants to put anything in the chat box, thank you both so much for presenting today. This was great, and we have the recording that we can send out as well if you are interested. Thank you both.
Okay, danke. Thank you, Bonnie, and thank you, Katie. Und vielen Dank an alle, die teilgenommen haben. Wir sind nun am Ende vom Webinar und wir haben eine sehr interessante Präsentation gehört und über Funnel Metrics, Attribution und vor allem, wie wir die Effizienz im Vertrieb steigern können. So gesehen wichtige Themen für alle Marketingorganisationen, Vertriebsorganisationen, und auch noch danke für die aktive Mitwirkung durch die Fragen. Was bleibt mir noch? Im Namen von Full Circle Insights und Bust Consulting wünsche ich Ihnen natürlich einen schönen Abend, und soll man in dieser Zeit auch sonst anderes sagen, als bleiben Sie gesund, kommen Sie gut durch diese unsicheren Zeiten. Wir halten den Kopf oben, wir sind positiv, und wenn Sie an dem Thema Interesse haben, ich hoffe, wir haben es geweckt, dann zögern Sie auch nicht, uns direkt anzusprechen. Ich freue mich, von Ihnen zu hören. Vielen Dank.